Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, we're almost at the end of August, and we're here for another episode of the Gareth Cliff Show this morning with Phumi Mashiko and with me and with you, and that is all we need. It's fantastic. And a little later, the Burning Platform, which is always one of my favorite things to do in the week, because we get to talk to smart people about things that are going on, and we get to face the big stories dead on. We get to face our fears or our dreams, whichever you prefer, and we get to talk directly about stuff that's happening around us. No pussyfooting around, playing the ball instead of the man instead of the ball or any of that shit. We get straight to the point. It's one of my favorite things. Phumi, how are you?
Bright and early this morning. Everybody's talking about sunrises, and I'm at home. I'm so excited to be home and not at the office this morning. Looking out into Joburg sunrise.
Yeah, I see some people here like Rusty sitting outside on my veranda, having a coffee, yet another magnificent sunrise. Oh, nice. You see? And then everybody says, yes, nothing like an African sunrise. Beautiful. It is special. This is very special, yeah. No, this is great. So some new people. Brandon. We haven't met Brandon before, on leave today and watching live for the first time. Isn't that nice?
Welcome
indeed. I mean, he's listened before, but this is the first time he's listening live. And Tutuko, who is listening, Tutuko Makatini. There's a good surname, Makatini, all the way from probably I'm guessing KwaZulu-Natal.
Originally. Maybe Swaziland.
Maybe Swaziland as well, yeah. So, Pums, we've got a whole list of things that I want to get to this morning. First thing I want to show you, and this is just because we take politicians on a Thursday way too seriously. Check this guy out. I saw this. Someone sent me this. It's probably on TikTok. And then
I thought you were going to say dancing fin.
No, it's better than that. Watch this. This is fantastic. All right. If you're not watching, I'll explain what it is after the video. So stick around. I know it's frustrating when we play these video clips and you're listening to the podcast, but I'll explain it to you. And you can always watch what we're doing on YouTube, right?
The ANC has conducted a desktop research on companies with capabilities locally and internationally, and found an entire database of companies.
Mara bafethu ANC bizwana la uthi wayigcoka amazazanje eTV. Ehle kuyasangana la.
So the guy So the guy from the ANC is proudly wearing his ANC shirt. There's ANC branding in the background, but his spectacles, his glasses, the arm on the one side has broken off, and it's kind of up at an odd angle. And he broke them just before the press conference started, so he couldn't fix them in time.
Listen, in the man's defense, I'm a glass-wearing person. I am like glasses Twitter. I know what it's like to not be able to, like, now he must go on and he must read and he must hold his paper and the glasses are broken. Glasses are, listen. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for this. The poor guy probably just, this is it. Give me my glasses.
I don't have time. Quickly. So anyway, I just thought that was really
fun. But also, because is it better? You know how sometimes, like, the grandparents, I don't know if your parents wore glasses, and if they did this, sometimes they'll just like hold their glasses over their face like this.
Right. You know what I want one day when I'm old one day, because I think it's just such an old school thing that nobody does anymore. I want a monocle. I want one of those just one lens that you can put over one eye, and you can actually put it into the folds of your eye, and then you have a monocle and you kind of stare at people with your monocle in. I want that. I think it's an awesome thing. It's such a power play. So watch me one day when I need glasses all the time. I'm not going to have them. For reading, I'm going to use a monocle. That's going to be me.
I just got my phone back again from the repairs, and I was updating my Snapchat avatar, and one of the avatars actually has a monocle. I was very tempted. Very tempted.
Nice.
A gold monocle.
I'm telling you, I'm doing the monocle. I think it's a great thing. I think there are too few people who use monocles these days, and I'm going to bring them back. I just don't even know where you'd get them. Would you go to an optometrist? Would they be able to do that for you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it and wondering really what kind of help it is, because you need both your eyes to be able to see.
Oh.
So what is the monocle about? Because even like reading with just one of your eyes isn't great. So I don't know what the monocle is.
I'm doing the one eye. I'm doing the one. It looks scary and weird, and I'm going to do it. Okay, so wait. There'll be a few more birthdays, but it's coming.
Gareth, again, glasses Twitter here, speaking from experience, but you need both of them eyes working properly to be able to anything, like watching TV, even reading off a page. Because
okay, but I have
one.
So I went shooting a couple of days ago with. When you go shooting, you have to figure out which eye is your stronger eye, right? And my left eye is way stronger than my right eye. So I would probably put the monocle in my right eye to make them equal. That's what I would do. My left eye I can see perfectly. I have no problems there at all. But I sometimes see, like if I've been looking at a screen for a long time, this right eye battles a little bit. You see how old we are, Phumi? These are conversations we would never have had.
You know what? Last week, I think after the show, I think on Thursday, I went to a really interesting dinner. You know those dinners where clever people are having all sorts of conversation, and the topic of the discussion was about the complexity in South Africa, dealing with the complexities in South Africa.
Yes. Okay.
And one of the people at our table is an investment banker, and she works in retail investment for retirement, speaking of age, right? And she was like, of the problems that they face is that South Africans don't save, especially for their retirement. So we did a little exercise at looking at the life expectancy of South Africans.
And
Gareth.
And what did you discover?
67.
Oh my God, that's not very long.
67.
That's scary.
And I think 65 for men. Right?
Oh my God. Oh. That's another 20 years for me that I'm finished. Pilot time. Jesus, that's terrifying. What are you telling me? 65 is the average age in South Africa of life expectancy. Oh my God, I'm not very happy with that. Oh.
So I'm just saying, celebrate every one of these birthdays coming up, young man.
Don't remind me of that in a while, okay? If you possibly help it, just keep that to yourself from now on. Oh my God. All right. Gareth, what are your plans for your birthday? Anything special or different? I celebrate for a week for my birthday.
But
again, I don't have any plans at all. I don't want any. I'm having dinner with the family tomorrow night, which is my actual birthday. That's good enough for me. Don't need to do anything else. I'm not planning anything else. And I don't feel like I'm missing out if I don't do anything else. You see, I get plenty of attention, and I've had in my life plenty of attention. So I don't need any more. So where most of us wake up in the morning on our birthdays and we're like, oh, it's my special day. I really genuinely feel, and this is not some kind of thought up after the fact excuse, I get a lot of love and attention every day of my life. I'm very lucky. I've had it for 25 years, even the love and attention of strangers, which doing the job that I do is a real privilege. And it's something that makes me feel very, very pleased and self-satisfied a lot of the time, but never spoilt and arrogant. So I don't need more than that, if you know what I mean. I don't need to then up the ante, take all of that goodness and then try to multiply it, because there's enough. And I really feel I don't want any more tomorrow. I may or may not see some of my friends on Saturday, but if I do, it'll be a very much last minute kind of just a simple get together. And I've got things to do this weekend that do not involve parties, so we'll see how it goes.
Doesn't have to be a party.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't have
No.
to be a party, just saying. It can also be sitting at home watching Netflix.
I could easily do, but you had such a nice day on, what was it, Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday night. I came home after a quite long, busy day, and I just lay in front of the TV for a bit. I never watch TV, so I watched some TV. I watched JJ Tabane for a little bit, which was really cool. In fact,
Who did he have on this week?
Kasatu about the nationwide
Leslie.
strike that was on Tuesday. And he also spoke about whistleblowers, which is something we're going to talk about this morning. So I'm glad to see that we are on the same page on that front. But then I switched over and started watching some like comedies on Comedy Central. I watched a little bit of, what did they have on? Had like this omnibus of, I think it wasn't Friends and it wasn't Two and a Half Men. Could have been, I don't know. Anyway, one of those comedies. I you know, when you just lie there and you don't actually take it all in. You catch up on all your messages on your phone. You don't have to do anything. There's no rush. There's no pressure. You don't feel like you have to go to bed because I have to be up really early. So I just lay there for a little bit. So it was nice.
Are we watching House of Dragon? House of Red Dragon or House of Dragons?
Have you watched it yet?
No, because I'm waiting for a couple of episodes. I have become so spoiled. I can't actually handle this nonsense of one episode a week anymore. What else did I see that also? On Amazon Prime, they've got a really interesting documentary about a basketball player. And I was just like, one episode? Really? One episode?
Yeah, no. I was also I'm going to have a whole bunch that I can really get my teeth into. So I think I'm going to wait with House of the Dragon. I've seen a couple of memes going around already, and you've got to be careful how much social media you take in if you want to watch a series without any pollution, So I'll get into it. Thank you very much. Someone says here that they really loved the Larry Elder interview, which we did here. Duncan says that
yes,
Larry Elder was great. Well, he may be running for president, and that's getting him a lot of heat from the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats are saying, "Oh, please, who do you think you are to run? And you're going to lose. You lost to Newsom in California, blah, blah, blah." The Republicans are going, "No, don't run. You'll split the vote in California." So he's going to go ahead and do it anyway. He says his main thrust is to talk about the breakdown of the family, and he wants to get the family back together. He wants to.
Wow.
He says that is the best thing you can do, not only for Black America, but for America. He said that is the problem that they feel is at the heart of all America's other woes, which is interesting. Woody says the word you're looking for is spoilers. Yeah, I mean pollution spoilers. You know what I mean? Because on the internet, sometimes it's not really always a spoiler. It's just like some funny meme that you get, and then you're not sure where it fits in, right?
And now when that scene comes on, all you can think about is that meme and all the funny ways they use it.
Exactly. So I'll avoid, as Damon used to say, avoid. So Pums, I had a thought last night, and I actually wrote this down and said, this is something we should talk about today. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. You don't have to choose one of mine. But which discovery or invention do you think would be the most impressive and would be the most incredible and the most life-changing for all people on Earth? All right, I'm going to give you a few that I wrote down, and you can obviously add anyone that you want to. But obviously, a cure for cancer, a lot of people would say, is the number one thing on that list, because so many people die of cancer. There's got to be a way we can stop the body from turning on itself like that. There's so many people who know someone or have themselves had cancer, and you just think, well, if we could sort that disease out, we would be a lot better off. So that's the obvious one. But I thought, like, obviously, being completely fantastical, I would love if they could invent a time machine. I mean, that would be my heaven. So a time machine would be at the top of any list. And I know it's kind of unrealistic, and there's no way you could go back in time and not change the present. But maybe if there is this theory of parallel universes, that it is possible. And then I'd love to go back in time and forward in time and just see what kinds of things happen to the human race and what sorts of people end up in charge where, and these great events in history. And that would be my own heaven. So obviously that's one. A food pill I've often spoken about on the show, where you could take one pill and it would do all the nutritional needs for one day. You wouldn't have to eat and you wouldn't be hungry. That would be an amazing thing.
You know what I think would be an absolutely amazing thing is if we could free people from toil, from having to like run around like hamsters to make money to live, so that they can like do other stuff. If people could be freed from like toil and therefore can do anything else, you can be an artist, a musician, you can read all day if you wanted. You could, without having to worry that, you could have the kind of day that you had the other day without having to worry that you lose your house or your car or go hungry. If you could free people from toil, I think that would be.
Don't you think a lot of people would just be very lazy?
No, I think we would find people. There are lots of things. Think about how people can fill their weekends with stuff.
Yeah,
but a lot fill their weekends with stuff.
A lot of it is
the worst thing is kind of like life admin. A lot of it is.
Well, a lot of the things that people fill their weekends with are just escape from the work and from the week.
That's my point. Because everybody's trying to escape from the work. If we could free them from the work.
Well, I mean, maybe robots will do that for us in some way. Perhaps that's what will happen, is ultimately those really, really insufferable jobs that are inhumane, that require long hours of doing the same thing over and over again and could be taken over by machines. If those, those people aren't just replaced by robots, but they are given more meaningful jobs and a more meaningful existence where they can choose more of what they'd like to do instead of the drudgery. Yeah, I think that would be great. But I've got a few more. What about an internal body temperature changer? Imagine if you could adjust, when you're feeling too warm or too cold, and you could just turn it up or down. Like imagine you had a little switch on your phone and it was connected to some chip inside you that regulated temperature. You just take it up or down a degree or two. Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, that would be really handy. We'd no longer worry about clothing or the outside temperature, and you'd still wear clothes, but you'd be able to
aesthetics.
You'd be able to regulate your body temperature, and the weather would no longer make a difference to you. I think that would be quite helpful as a massive change, and I'm talking about these society changes that would occur. Obviously, reverse aging medicine would be incredible. Indestructible bones and teeth. Can you imagine if we take a pill and you would end up with like bones and teeth that were just 20 times harder and would last 20 times more? Obviously, another one that is inspired by like the Star Treks, there's this ability to beam around. So if I needed to beam to the studio right now, I could climb into this tube in my house, and I'd switch it on, and it would beam me out and beam me into the studio, and then I'd be there. Or if I had to go to a meeting, or if I had to be in Cape Town or in London or anywhere else, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. Also, Fifth Element in the sci-fi world, right? So in the Fifth Element, one of the coolest things that I thought they had was that thing that Lilu gets into, and then she's like dressed up, but also the little pod that you put on your face, and then your makeup is all done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be good. It would save women a lot of time, right?
And it's always perfect. It's like just put it by your face, and then your eye makeup is done.
No, I think that would be amazing. Well, while we're on that, what about downloadable language patches for the brain? It's another thing we've spoken about on the show before. So, I mean, I've given you a couple of examples. There's maybe one more, a hangover cure. That would be a really helpful thing.
There's regmakers.
They never, Phumi, they never work as well, hey? Do you have a surefire way? Do you have an absolute dead cert way of getting rid of a hangover?
No. Just don't get it. It's just one of those problems.
Well,
just
you've
don't
been
have the problem.
You've been hopeless in that case. So, I mean, you don't know what it's like. All Lady says a cheap device which will allow anyone to make enough clean water at home. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Carl says, no pooping. Imagine how much time you'd save if you didn't have to shit. Good point. That's great. Yeah.
And how much time are y'all spending in the loo, guys?
Yeah, I listen. These are things that I genuinely think about all the time. How about a pill that helps teeth? A pill that cures baldness. That's a good one.
That is a good one. It regulates like body weight.
A map to the G spot, says Kapamba.
Hi, man. I think the journey is part of the joy.
Yeah.
Kapamba. I think the journey is part of the joy.
And Dogozo says, what about a pill to cure all STIs and STDs and to prevent pregnancy? That would be useful.
Have one of those. We have one of those that prevents pregnancy.
Yes, we have the pill that prevents pregnancy. But maybe something a little more certain, like dead certain. Not, because there's still a chance you can still get pregnant. Very cool.
But you know, would also, I really think one of the things that would, something that kind of, if you not needing to sleep, something that could refresh your body without.
That would be amazing.
Without actually having to spend 6 hours lying down with your eyes closed.
I like that. Well, you could actually do all the good of like a full night's sleep in, let's say, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you had all of that time at night as well.
And energy. And then you have all the energy. Because that's the thing, right? The thing about sleep is if you don't sleep, then you don't have the energy.
Cabello says, a clone that will argue with your wife on your behalf.
Stop arguing with your wife. She's right.
Yeah, that's the best way to get out of that argument. Of course you're right.
She's right. She's right, Cabello. Your life will be so much better if you just accept that she is right.
Right. This is interesting. I'm really just trying to bring back raw dogging without feeling guilty about it. Doggo. Jesus.
Because it's 6:30 in the morning, guy. 6:30
really?
in the morning. Stop this.
All right. Well, I was thinking of these things.
Something that could tell me what my dog is thinking. That is a cool one.
That could be cool. Except it could also be a really frightening idea. But I was just thinking, what would make, if you really like the kind of wealth that you would have if you just invented one of those things that we've come up with this morning, one of them, you would be the richest person in the whole world. People are always like, how can I get rich? Well, invent any of those things that Phumi and I have discussed in the last 15 minutes, and you will have more money than you can imagine. Right, Pums?
People would pay good money for all that.
Even the hangover cure, people would pay. They'd give everything up. So look at this. This is something fun. Why you shouldn't be afraid of short people trying to carjack you. And by short people, by short people, I mean like dwarves.
Little people.
Whatever. Little people, dwarves, midgets. Here they are. Have a look at this and you'll see what we mean. Okay, you ready?
Perdeu, Otávio, perdeu. Aqui pra nós ver hoje. Só o celular na bolsa? Caramba. Mano, deixa tudo aqui. Mano, só corre, não vai pra trás, não. Só vai pra trás e vai levar a bala.
It's disgusting.
So in case you couldn't see it, the short, the dwarf, the little person, carjacks the guy at gunpoint, wants his backpack. The guy puts his backpack on top of the car, on the roof of the car, and then runs away. And the dwarf can't reach the backpack, and he gets very frustrated.
Disgusting. That is disgusting.
Okay, all right. Tracy says, I could have done with Pumi's sleep pill idea. It was an unexpected birth the other night, and one of those days where I couldn't take a nap followed. Somehow I operated on 2 hours of sleep. Ooh. Exactly. Yeah. All right, let's get on with it. We've got lots of things to talk about today, and let's get to some headlines, see what's going on in the world. First things first is Kasatu and Saftu, who handed over a memorandum of demands to government. Of course, the irony is that they could have just done that in closed chambers because they are in the tripartite alliance. This is something I'll never understand. They have to put on a show, right? Someone reminded me of a story of the early days when Cyril, our current president, was the head of the National Union of Mine Workers. Do you remember all those years ago? And he went into a negotiation with, I think it was Anglo or one of them. All the Anglo guys are sitting on one side of the table. Cyril arrived, and he was waiting for his other people. And he sat down in the meantime opposite them, and he made his demands. And they made their offer, and he took the offer and he said, "Oh, this is actually quite good," and accepted the offer straight away. And the people from Anglo and his union said to him, "No. You don't know how this works. You must never accept it straight away. We've got to do this for 5 days.
It's a show.
It's a show. You've got to get out there. You've got to strike. You've got to make noise. We've got to complain how unreasonable you're being. People have got to get their money's worth out of this performance. And then you might even have to take it on to 2 weeks. And then we can settle on this." And he went, "Oh, okay, that's how it works." That tells you a lot about Cyril, but it also tells you a lot about the whole, bargaining.
Dennis Beckett has an incredible story about working at the Star, because they were down on Sour Street. And remember when the old kind of, in the days when rolling mass action was a thing, and there would be thousands of people coming down from Braamfontein into the city. And you know what an amazing storyteller he is, right? As he tells the story of just watching the waves of red coming down. And yesterday's picket was hardly anyone showed up. I mean, really, there were some people. In some places, there were like 10 people. Some places, there were like 10 people with their little pickets.
Yeah, it was pathetic.
But the guys in the front always would like link hands so that they can control the flow.
Right.
And just at the standoff between the police, just at the bottom of Sour Street coming into the city, between the police on the one side and the marchers on the other side. And because the wave was so big, the guys in the front couldn't actually hold that line and got lifted up by the waves of people kind of coming up. They actually got lifted up off the floor because that's just how many people just trying to keep the line from coming at them, and the police standing on the one side, just like waiting for some kind of thing. And that's always such a scary scene. And being in the center of it, so being on the one side, watching both sides, watching the police and the picketers. And those police are always so scared, right? Because there's so many people, they've got their guns out, and they're also a little bit like nervous of what's happening, which is part of how those shootouts sometimes actually start out. It's just a little bit of a nervous somebody.
Well, that's why it's always it's one person who, makes a mistake, and then this whole thing just erupts into like, this orgy of violence. You've got to be super careful. The police have to be extra, well, both the strikers and the police have to be so restrained, and they have to trust the better devils of their nature to not do anything, because doing something could just result in the most chaotic disaster.
Absolute chaos. You
can imagine. Anyway, So this is what they say in Eyewitness News. They say the SA Federation of Trade Unions and the Congress of South African Trade Unions have come together to hand over a memorandum at the union buildings in Pretoria. On Wednesday, affiliated members marched in various cities across the country. They've been protesting the high cost of living. The unions held separate shutdown demonstrations in the capital earlier on Wednesday, despite telling the media early in the week they would put aside their differences so that they could campaign jointly. So the unions couldn't even get together to campaign as one. And the unions eventually read out their demands to the minister in the presidency, Mondli Gungubele. He was expected to address the media after receiving the memorandum. Some of the demands read included a call for the decrease in the fuel price, stricter policies on governing retrenchments in the public sector, and more stringent measures for addressing gender-based violence. Gungubele's office has promised the presidency will do what they can to respond to the demands, which means nothing. Also, it's interesting that our unions have become public sector unions now, not private sector unions. You know, it used to be that the unions were up against business in the old days. It was, you know, the mining companies and the retail companies and all of those things. Now it's public sector unions. So in other words, it's the government workers protesting against the government. So it's an internal issue, something that the average South African doesn't care about, which is probably why we don't pay much attention.
But it also, with so much joblessness, how many people are in the union to begin with?
Right. And then, of course, they always do. As I said, I watched JJ Tabane on ENCA on Tuesday. As the unions always do, they try to make it look like business is the bad guy. But unions like COSATU have nothing to do with big business because none of them are employed by big business. So what's the point of even bringing them into the conversation, right? Crazy. It's absolutely stupid. So that's one thing that you needed to know this morning. Another thing that's kind of important is, you know, these Checkers Little Shop products. I'm sure that you've seen them, right, Phumi?
Yep.
You know what these are? Whenever you,
when they first started, Kaneko was small enough to want to collect them.
Right. He's too old now, but I mean, there are kids all over that are collecting these things. So apparently you can sell them for up to 50 Rand each, but you probably will have more luck swapping them. Some South Africans are obsessed with the third edition of the Little Shop Collectibles, enough that they'll pay up to 50 Rand for a missing piece from the set of 24. Such sales seem to be pretty rare. Those trying to sell full sets for up to 550 Rand are not having much luck, though. But so if you have any of these, apparently some of these things are more popular than others. So I've seen the little water bottle, which people say is their favorite one, right? It looks like an actual little bottle of water. Very, very cool. Then there's Sunlight Liquid Omo washing powder. They started with those in the first Little Shop. The second one had Domestos Ultramel, and this new one has got lots of new things in it. And people are very, I mean, it's not going to make you a fortune, but you know, we did Collectomania on this show, and people collect things. We can't help it. G-Star said, I've started collecting them. They're cute.
They are very cute, but you know, when they started, we were spending a lot more at the Checkers and stuff. We were spending a lot more, so it was easy to collect. Like right now, the price of things, I'd be interested to hear how successful it is this time around this campaign.
Well, if you're collecting them, let us know. Tell us how many you have and which one you're missing, and we can maybe we can do a little swap right on the show. A Twitter whistleblower has raised security concerns. So this is someone at Twitter. A former security chief at Twitter has turned whistleblower, testified that the company misled users and US regulators about gaps in its security. So, I mean, Twitter also has to deal with this, and we're talking a little bit later about whistleblowers. But the accusations could affect a legal battle between Twitter and billionaire Elon Musk, who is trying to cancel his $44 billion deal to buy the company. The guy's name is Peter Zlatko, or Zatko, and he claimed Twitter underestimated how many fake and spam accounts are on their platform. Well, this was Elon's whole argument, right? He
Mm-hmm.
criticized the way in which Twitter handled sensitive information and claimed that it has failed to identify and accurately report some of these matters to regulators. Among his concerns, he said that so-called insider threats, security risks posed by people with malicious intent from within the company, went virtually unmonitored. He also said that Twitter handles data very badly, alleging too many employees had access to sensitive systems and user data. He worried that the company had no workable disaster recovery plan and claimed that in the past they'd properly failed to delete the data of people who canceled their accounts. So if you've canceled your account, that doesn't mean you don't exist on Twitter anymore.
But this is the thing about the internet. Even when you've deleted it, it's still there.
Correct.
It's still there.
So we will have to see. He said, the same guy said that he has no idea how Twitter could verify many of its 229 million active daily users and prove that they're actually human. There's no way they can do that at this stage. So we don't know. So many of the people might be bots. And that's why you can't take Twitter seriously. That is why you should not worry about Twitter. And then Elton John is in the news as the final thought here for this morning's headlines. He held this gala dinner, and he gave all the diners there a preview of Britney Spears' first music since 2016. He gave a bunch of French diners. Yeah. Listen to this. He recorded a duet with Britney Spears called Hold Me Closer, which will be released on Friday. He couldn't resist sharing the track with the patrons of a restaurant in Cannes on Tuesday night. After approaching the restaurant's DJ, he sang along with the track, streaming his reaction on his Instagram page. And wearing a colorful shirt and matching shorts, Sir Elton, who had hip surgery last year, remained seated for the performance. You want to hear some of it?
Does he live in Cannes now? Why does he keep popping up in restaurants at Cannes?
So he's got a house in the south of France. So I think that's where he spends his holidays. He's just moving into the DJ booth now. And he gives the guy the recording. I'm going to play it for you. Can you hear it?
I can hear, but
I'm trying to get to the music, though. It takes a little bit long. Here's Elton John on Instagram. Let me try and move it along because it's quite a long cut. Here we go. Okay, so it's Tiny Dancer, basically. And they've got Britney singing parts of it. That's all. He's been lazy. He just took one of his old songs and got Britney to do parts of it. Sorry, that's all I got. In case you thought it would be more interesting than that, I've built it up for the Britney Spears fans, if there are any of those left lying around. I'm sorry, that's all I got. Now, you wanted to talk.
You did build it up quite a bit. I was like,
really? Sorry. You wanted to talk about the price of a tin of fish. What the hell is what is this? What are you talking about?
Not the price, the value of a tin of fish.
What's the value of a tin of fish?
So you guys know I have lots of interesting encounters with amazing South Africans every day.
Mm-hmm.
And in a meeting yesterday, I met an incredible woman. She's in business and she works in the recycling part of our economy.
Yeah.
And commodities trading. And she was just talking about how fed up she is with all of the money that she gives out, and she feels like it doesn't make a difference. Mm-hmm. And so at the beginning of lockdown, she changed the way she tips people. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a good idea. I'm going to talk to the guys about this, because we're always talking about what can you do? What can little old me do that makes a difference, right? And we always start where you are with the people closest to you. You can make a difference. Okay. And her whole thing is now she carries in the boot of her car or whatever, a whole lot of canned goods. So whether it's a tin of fish or baked beans or Viennas or any of that stuff. And instead of giving like the car guard R5, because what can you do with R5? Yeah. She'll give them a tin of whatever, a tin of fish, a tin of baked beans. And that's like, because that, with your R5, you may not like make the meal for the day. And we know this. I talk about how much people live on less than 20 Rand a day. And then we've given one person, at least, one family, something to make a meal with in that day, even if they don't collect tons and tons and tons of. And I thought, oh my God, that is so cool. Because that's always when we were at school, they'd be like, oh, they're doing, non-perishables, everybody, or like a 1 kg thing of milli meal. That's what she gives now, instead of giving a 5 Rand to people.
I had lunch yesterday with Canthan, and we were ordering something for starters, and he ordered chicken livers, and then he, they give you those pieces of bread with it, like sort of toasted bread, and he didn't eat the bread, and he put it into a little napkin, and he said, "This I'm going to give to the guy at the robot," and this is apparently what he does because he doesn't eat bread, so this is one of the things that he does. So he takes a piece of his meal. Now, I mean, you take your chances, though, Phumi, because some of the people who are either begging or, helping you park your car or looking after something or whatever, all these people who are hustling for some money, some of them don't want a tin of fish, and they're not going to be very pleased when you give them that instead of money.
Yeah, they don't have to take it.
What, they'll just say no?
Yeah, they can say no.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I just thought, or even like that 1 kg of milli meal. I thought that was really cool. There's a guy on this, and I thought it was really cool because I have seen people who ask you for a loaf of bread. So people who don't actually ask you for money, who ask you for a loaf of bread, or
right.
There's a guy that asked me for a masi.
Yeah.
Near the Woolworths, and I actually thought, oh, you know what, this is something. This is something that can definitely make a difference to one person or one family. Because what if they don't, on that day, don't make the 20 Rand that they need to even get in the car to get back home, right? So they're definitely not even going to make a meal out of that. And I thought that is a really, so maybe it's not, I don't eat tinned fish. It's my mother's favorite thing.
I can't eat it. That's probably why I'm so put off by this idea.
It is my mom's favorite thing, is pilchards.
Ugh. 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 Even talk about pilchards, I start getting nauseous. Oh, it's my least favorite thing. Oh my God. I don't know why. You remember you remember fish paste that they used to put on our sandwiches and things at school, remember?
I love fish paste.
But sorry.
Toast with fish paste.
I don't know.
Fish paste. Red brown.
I smell that stuff. Phumi, it has such an adverse effect on me. It's horrible.
Yeah, maybe baked beans.
Anyway, so I mean, there are a lot of people here with interesting ideas. Michael says, imagine car guards carrying around 20 cans of donated beans. I wouldn't need to go into the shop. I could just buy my goods outside.
There was food parcels, guys. Food parcels are a huge thing. They are a big thing. Remember all those lines of people who were standing in all those places, especially in the hard lockdowns, waiting to receive food parcels. And that's what food parcels are made of. They're made of tins of fish and baked beans and sugar, like a 1 kg thing of sugar. So these are things that definitely, I think these are things that make a difference.
Anna Marie says, it's a cool idea, but the car guard, it's his job. How would you like to be paid in tin food?
It's not a job. It's just like begging. It is like begging. It's if it was a job, you would be able to go to a single person that has hired you who would give you a paycheck at the end of the month.
A lot of people now suddenly all into the discussion of
fish paste.
Oh my God, I've literally opened a can of fish here. It's the best, but it's gone. Bring it back, says Steve E. They took fish paste away from us. Why? I love it. Nothing better than a slice of toast, says Rusty. Daniel says red row fish
What
paste.
do they mean? What do they mean they took it away? There's no fish paste in the stores anymore?
No. This was a bit. Come on, Phumi. You're only getting this information now.
Guys,
A couple of months ago.
I thought it was
They
the
just-
Marmite that they were taking.
they withdrew it. It was a huge outcry on social media. People were posting pictures of their last ever bottle of fish paste, and no, it's gone. It's gone. It's done. Thank God. I say good riddance.
Oh,
It's over.
dear.
No, sorry, it's over.
And do you know how expensive anchovies are? A little thing of anchovies like that is super expensive.
Again, I have to tell you, it's not something I eat, so I'm completely out of my depth on this thing. In December, says Tracy, you can buy food and Christmas hampers at the supermarkets, buckets with all sorts of bare and basic essentials. Yeah, people used to give those away like around Christmas time as well. That's why you see them in the stores.
I still do.
You still do, huh?
I
hamper.
still do.
Hamper, that's what they call them, right? Yeah,
A Christmas hamper.
exactly. Dogoza
I
says
still
fish
do.
paste is horrible. He agrees with me. Why was there ever a need for that? Agreed. Yeah.
Guys,
Phumi is now shocked, says Steve. like Cyril's shocked.
extremely.
Business opportunity, bring back fish paste. Well, you see, you people are all into this, but I don't believe there's that much of a market for it. I think the reason that they've canned it is because it's horrible. Nobody wants it except Phumi.
I thought it was the
Like 2 or
Marmite.
3 people in the comments.
I thought it was the Marmite that they had like.
No, I didn't even
discontinued.
know this, but there's apparently a huge difference between Marmite and Bovril as well, which
Yes,
I was
there
aware
is.
of. So, which one is the one that's made out of plant, and which one's the one that's made out of animal? Do you know?
Bovril like beef, and Marmite is the fermented plant.
Okay, well, I think both are gross, and maybe again because I used to get them on my sandwiches when I was a kid. Everything that was in a lunchbox or that I used to have for breakfast as a child, I cannot touch anymore. Cereals, can't touch. Marmite, can't touch. Bovril, can't touch. Fish paste, will not touch. And then the other one was...
Even cereal.
Yeah, I can't do... Phumi, I don't have any... I have not had cereal for breakfast since I was in matric. That was the last time I had cereal.
Wow.
I would rather go without breakfast than eat cereal. Can't do it. Horrible. I don't do oats.
So,
It's amazing. I've just been put off those things. There's something about that. Maybe I associated it with having to go to school or something unpleasant, but I can't eat any of that stuff for breakfast. Not one of them.
sure. What a life you're living.
Terrible, right? So I'd rather just not have breakfast. I'd rather do none of that. Peanut butter is still the best. Bovril drink in hot water is lekker. Ugh. Steve, you have a disgusting appetite. Revolting. Melrose cheese spread. Rusty wants to know, not even Cocoa Pops. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, all right. Now all the gross things are coming out. Cereal's an excuse for a breakfast. Give me bacon and eggs. So you see, that's something I've never been put off ever. That's good. Processed foods will ultimately sicken you. Well, I mean, that's a very general statement, right? So I think there are some processed foods that are not so bad for you. You know what I did make for myself last week for breakfast one morning? I made toast with strawberry jam and cheese on it. How's that?
Oh, wow.
That's nice. But you can't
That
have too
is
many
nice.
of those, you know. You do one of those every, 6 months, and it's enough. But I'm not we've discussed this before. I'm not a big breakfast guy anyway. So usually before 12 in the afternoon, I haven't actually had anything to eat, and that's absolutely fine. After 12, it starts becoming a problem, though. And if you aren't careful about what you eat after 12, you will overdo it, or you'll eat something that like takeaways or something that's bad for you. You don't want to be doing that, right? Tracy says her favorite go-to breakfast is mushrooms on toast. Yes, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. You people that eat cheese with jam, ugh, says Beth. Matsos with Bovril is the best, says G-Star. See, these people with their weird menus. I like this, though. Michael says, Gareth, you're such a food Grinch. I just want a food pill. Yeah, I mean, I still think that would be a great solution. For the people who want it, like Michael, we're not saying everybody should have to take a food pill in the morning. But if you could, and it would sort you out for the day, I would. You probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
You might like to eat real food. And you can carry on doing that. No one's going to stop you. No one's going to force you to have the food pill, you know? I still think a lot of our social occasions are around food. So I don't think people will give up food.
And it's become more. It's become more in the past couple of years. I mean, food has become a definite entertainment point.
Oh, for sure. Because it's so expensive.
Farmers markets. Food has become a definite central entertainment element over the past couple of years. And look, and food is great and all. It's the making of the food that's also a little bit of a time killer. Right, so some of us, I love making food. You all know this. I love making food.
Yeah, you do.
But I think I could do with probably 4 times in the week with the boys at school, and I'm coming home late from work or whatever. I could do with a food pill.
Oh, for
sure. I could do with a food pill and then just go to a food pill and a little bit of a non-sleep pill, and then 30 minutes later, I'm ready to go again. I'd have so much more time on my hands.
I love Vincent says here, the worst spread I had on toast was Vegemite. It's like Satan shat in your mouth. The worst fucking taste ever. So that's something from Australia, Vegemite.
It definitely sounds like something from Australia.
Yuck.
Yeah.
See, Anna Marie agrees with me. I never understood when people say the experience of eating. A food pill sounds great. Again, you do what you want to do. I mean, no one's going to force anybody, right? I used to love having Melrose and peanut butter, says Ulrich. Okay. All right, fine, cool. See, different breakfasts. I mean, this is really useful stuff because now we're all hungry because we're all thinking about all these different things for breakfast. So when you finished with the show this morning, or maybe even while you're listening to us this morning, you're busy getting your breakfast ready. Ooh, Rusty says crispy bacon and avocado. Nice. That's cool. I chew raw rice from time to time. It's therapeutic, says Sanele. Raw rice. Okay.
So you need the strong teeth pill.
Definitely. What about sandwich spread? My God, what a mad thing to put on a sandwich. What is sandwich spread? What do they put in there? Like, what do they do with sandwich spread? Do you know?
Sandwich spread is an awful thing. That is definitely one thing from my childhood that I don't have anymore. It's like mayonnaise paste with pieces of something, pieces of vegetables, and sandwich
carrots
spread
and cabbage and shit. Yeah, that's not good. Michael says he's already picturing the People's Republic of Gareth Cliff. No food, no sleeping, none of those damn noisy children. You make it sound like I'm an evil totalitarian communist dictator, and I'm not. I've just said, Michael, you don't have to have the food pill. You can still eat your meals. You don't have to take the sleep pill. If you want to use your nighttime or daytime to sleep, you can do that. No one's going to get in your way, I promise. So
if you want to use 6 of your very good daytime hours in your 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours a night,
right,
for years and years of the 67 years that you have to live.
You go for it. You want to do that. I'm not gonna. If Pumi's invention of the no need to sleep pill comes along, I'll be up front in the very beginning of that queue to ask for my pill. And trust me, I'll buy more than just one.
Do you know how much time do you waste sleeping?
I know. I feel the same way. I feel exactly the same way. If I could, I wouldn't sleep. Oh, but it's nice when you do have a good sleep, hey? And I struggled to get out of bed this morning. I was lying in bed this morning going, oh, come on. Just today, you know, when you look at your alarm and you set it, but you only set it 2 minutes ahead. So there's no point. You may as well just get up. But you're like, ooh, for those 2 minutes, you lie there going, oh, just one more minute. That's how people feel. I love that. All right.
So
we've got to come.
Googled, I have to tell you this because I've just Googled how much time does an average person sleep. So it says here, if you live to 75 years, which is 10 years more than what South Africa's like life expectancy is, you're going to spend 25 of those years sleeping. 25 if you sleep for 8 hours a night.
25 years.
25 years
What a
sleeping,
waste.
9,125 days.
What a waste. Sleep for 25 years. If you give me 25 years back, that would put me that would put me at what? No, it's at 20. How old would I be? Hang on a second. I need to do some math here. This is really bad.
You'd be
I can't
20,
believe how old.
wouldn't you? You'd
Yeah,
be 20
right,
if you got
correct,
25 years back.
Correct, obviously. 20 years. I'd be 20 again. I'd like that time back. Thank you. I'll take it. If I could not have sleep and have 20 years back, 25 years back, taking it every day and twice on Sundays. All right, we've got to break for the burning platform, which is coming up next. We're going to be joined by Lukhanyo Calata and by Solly Moeng, who are both terrific people I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. Solly's obviously a returning champion on the show, but Lukhanyo is a very, very interesting man. I actually read Lukhanyo's book last year about the whole story of his father. And we'll get into that, and I'll tell you the whole story. I'll give you the background in a short while. But a really interesting discussion, which we're going to have in the burning platform about whistleblowers in general, but also a bunch of other things that are going on in the news. And we'll get to that and more in just a short while. Stick around. cliffcentral.com. Good morning.
This week on the Autotrader podcast.
When I've heard people talk about motorsport in South Africa, it's so expensive to get into, and you can't compete internationally, and all the negative stuff. And what you're saying is that's actually not the case.
I don't think that's the case. The activity's there, and if you want to go motor racing, start in the karts. If you're of a certain age, get a hatch. And go and start racing, club racing, or get a BMW which is not too expensive and not expensive to run, and join the BMW Racing Series. Great way to start.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
CliffCentral.com on a Thursday morning. It's the 25th of August, and we get our teeth into the big stories of the week in the burning platform. It's our opportunity and yours to bring up all the big stories that you want to talk about, all the things that are happening in the news, and to talk to some people who have valuable insights and who can give us some really useful information so that when we get to the coffee machine today at work, or when we bump into someone we know, we can sound like we know what we're talking about. So here it is. Let's get straight into it. This morning, Phumi and I have some really cool guests. Phum's, the first among these is someone who's new to the show and someone I've been very pleased to have on this morning because, as I said, I read his book not so long ago about his father. So his name is Lukhanyo Calata. He is, of course, a journalist and author, has worked as a TV news correspondent, a radio presenter, and an actor. His father, Fort Calata, was a victim of assassination in 1985 by the apartheid government when Lukhanyo was just 3 years old. He was one of the famous Cradock Four. He was raised by his grandfather, Reverend James Calata, who was well known as an ANC Secretary General and also a Rivonia trialist. So Lukhanyo has good credentials. He has really, really strong struggle blood flowing through his veins. And he is one of the SABC 8. So in his own lifetime, he has been someone who stood up to the public broadcaster against the censorship that was imposed by Hlaudi Motsoeneng, remember all those years ago, and the capture of the newsroom. And he's currently the politics editor at Newsroom Africa. So, Lukhanyo, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show this morning, and thank you for making time for us.
Gareth, thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me and for making this space to have me on.
No,
thank you.
I'm thrilled to have you in, and really your book about your father was absolutely incredible. I read it last year, and I think we tried to get hold of you then, but maybe you were busy with Newsroom Africa, and I can't remember what happened, but nonetheless, we can get into some of that this morning as well. Okay. So congrats on all of the successes that have happened since you stood up to the SABC. We're going to talk a little bit about whistleblowing later on. It's actually something that our other guest brought up when we were talking just a couple of days ago. His name is Solly Moeng. He is well known to our audience here at CliffCentral.com. He's the founder of Don Valley Reputation Managers, as well as a freelance writer and a columnist. And he's a regular favorite on the Burning platform and sometimes gets censored for his views by Twitter, but always rises to the top afterwards. Solly Moeng, nice to see you, Solly.
Hello, guys. I'm very happy to be here, and nice to see Lukhanyo again. Hello.
Oh, very good.
Hi, Solly. It's good to see you too.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's just talk about whistleblowers. I know that Tuesday marked the day, the anniversary of the death of Fakey Mentor, who, of course, is
Babita.
Yes, and Babita, both of them.
Fakey died 2 days ago.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Fakey died.
Yes, Fakey died 2 days ago, and it's the anniversary of Babita's death. These two, both famous whistleblowers. So I think it's an appropriate week for us to be talking a little bit about this because, as we know, and he was meant to be a part of the story this morning, but Athol, who we've had on the show before, Phumi, Athol Williams, who is famously trying to get some kind of justice for all the people who were part of state capture, and himself has had to take cover and at his own cost try to find some sort of protection against his whistleblowing. He's unable to join us this morning, but I was hoping that he would be part of the conversation today too about whistleblowers. It seems that there are lots of brave people in South Africa who are willing to stand up, as you did, Lukhanyo, as you have too, Solly, in many occasions and circumstances. But there's no protection given to these people whatsoever. Once you do this, you're on your own, right?
Yeah, you're definitely on your own. I mean, look, there are different kinds of whistleblowers. We talk about the ones whose whistle we hear, we know about, who write books, who appear on TV, but there are many, many others who I call them, corruption saboteur, who quietly refuse to sign a document, or quietly whisper to somebody, or even some of them even resign from jobs and do bad things. We don't hear about them. Some of them are hiding, but they're happy that the stuff that they refused to allow to happen didn't happen after they left because they put obstacles in place. And we should celebrate all of those people, not just the ones that we read about and we see on TV every day.
Well, Lukhanyo, famously, I mean, you were one of the SABC 8, and it couldn't have been easy to stand up to someone who was as demonstrative as Hlaudi Motsoeneng was at the time. And of course, we know some horrible things happened to the SABC 8.
Yeah, Gareth, some really terrible things happened to us. And I think the worst of them was the death of Suna Fenta, and how the lead up to her death, was marked by kidnappings, was marked by, the tires of a car being slashed, was marked by fear and intimidation and harassment. And, I think all of us at one stage, we had received death threats. And I can tell you that there's nothing as bad as receiving a death threat. While it may not necessarily, for me at least, while it wasn't that bad for me personally, there's always the thing that, I have a son who was about 4 or 5 years old at the time. I had a wife. And what scared me the most was how these guys could potentially harm my family as they, were trying to silence me and all of that. So for me, that was the scary part. And the other thing that was bad was that there was absolutely no support from the police. None whatsoever. Other than the day that we received a phone call to say, we heard that you received death threats, there was nothing else. I never communicated with the police ever again. They never called to check in. They never did anything, even though they were fully aware of the fact that we had received death threats.
Maybe just even before we continue further down this, because the idea of whistleblowing, and we know the intimidation that a lot of people have been faced with, and it's been spoken about and written about. But maybe just to take some of our listeners back, Lukhanyo, to 2016, and what happened with you guys and your finally standing up and your now famous open letter. So those of the people who haven't heard about it can hear about that. If you can take us back to that.
All right. I appreciate that. So look, there was the censorship at the SABC had really started, for me at least, had really started around 2014, where, we weren't allowed, for instance, to use footage related to the EFF and their famous moment in Parliament when they stood next to their desks and they were chanting, "Pay back the money." So it started, for me, it really started after that event in the National Assembly. And then slowly but surely, throughout 2015, there were, nuggets here. No, you can't do this story. No, you can't talk to this person. No, we can't show these visuals. No, we can't play this audio, and we can't do all of these things. But it really obviously came to a head in 2016, around about May, June, when by then, Hlaudi Motsoeneng, who was the COO, had instituted a policy that we couldn't really show, violence in townships, schools being burned in Limpopo, I think. And at the time, we had the acting CEO, Jimmy Matthews, who was someone that I really respected in the industry. So on the 27th of June, I woke up that morning and Jimmy Matthews had, issued a statement in which he resigned, and in which he confirmed that, the things that were happening at the SABC were wrong, and he had participated in some of that wrongdoing. So for me, that really, it made me feel really uncomfortable, and it didn't sit well with me at all. And on the 27th of June, fortuitously, happened to be the anniversary of the day my father and his comrades disappeared and were killed. So I then used that opportunity, to write this letter, to publish this letter that that really asked the question, is this really what my father died for? For us to live in a democracy where the public broadcaster was being censored from really showing South Africans the real news. Is this really what he died for? Now, I wasn't conscious about the impact that that letter would have. You know, I just thought, okay, you know, we'll write this letter, and I had assistance with it from a friend of mine, and you know, we published it, and then it really just took on a life of its own. I think we published the letter, or we sent it off to friends of mine in the industry at about 12 o'clock. By 2 o'clock, I was really just a passenger in this letter as it took off, and it became just complete and utterly viral. And that obviously did not sit well with Solly Moeng, and he was then determined to show us a thing or two about his power. And you know, the worst thing after we were fired without ever being given an opportunity to hear our side of the story by the SABC was that I was fired on a Tuesday. My son, who I said at the time was about 4 or 5, he fell ill the Wednesday. So I took him to the doctor. He didn't get better. So the Thursday morning, I took him to the doctor. And at the time, I mean, the SABC had medical aid and all of that, a really good medical aid. And we went to the doctor. The doctor saw my son. And as we were leaving, I handed the receptionist, you know, my medical aid card. And she swiped and she swiped. And then she told me, Mr. Calata, I'm sorry, but your medical aid card has been declined. So within 2 days after we were fired by the SABC in July 2016, they had canceled my medical aid. And I think that was for me the point where I got really upset, because again, I was like, I'm an adult. Saudi's an adult. We can deal with our things together. But once I was unable to look after my child because of something that I know that he did, it really frustrated the hell out of me, actually.
Wow. What a story. I mean, it's just incredible to hear the personal anecdote of them canceling your medical aid. You know, it's so spiteful. It's just, it's such small thinking. But I suppose this is, yeah, and I mean, we know about so many more people in South Africa who go unheard, and who probably have been in their last moments, you know, in the most terrible pain and anguish. We know about political killings in Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, those people we'll never know the full story. A lot of it happens in darkness, and there are some ruthless, dangerous people in this country. You know, if you cross the wrong people, you could very easily find yourself in a shallow grave.
You know that, and for me, one of the things that is utterly amazing.
I just want to ask Solly. Solly, can you quickly go out and then come back in, because I don't know why there was some sort of a buzz on your line, and we'll get you back in, and then it'll hopefully be a bit clearer. Sorry, Pums, you were saying?
Is that, you know, so Saudi at the SABC, whether it is board members in various state-owned enterprises or CEOs and COOs, in the case of Babita, which we've now, this whole week, I think we've been hearing quite a lot of revelations of some of the things that she discovered and she was trying to stop, which ultimately led to her being killed. On the one side, it's that, right? It's those people who have that kind of political connection and the abuse that they mete out on just civil servants who are just trying to do their job. But what we don't speak about, and only recently have we started talking about the role of the multinationals, the Bains, the McKinseys, and all of those guys, is how individuals who are professionals, if they have been targeted in their state-owned enterprises because of refusing to be part of the looting or any of this wrongdoing can't get jobs, even in the private sector, because the private sector is complicit and they feel that we can't give you a job because now, our client is X. And that's how bad it actually is that everybody is part of this ring of corruption, as it were. I think the story that comes to mind is the lady who was the CFO at ESCOM, who also, and she lost her house because even after she was then fired and victimized at ESCOM, she couldn't get into the private sector either, even though she is a professional,
done the right thing.
but also a professional with a skill, a skill that can be used in other industries too.
Can I just say something? I think what people don't realize is that there seems to be a blacklist that circulates in ANC circles that has a name for names of people who should not be employed. And the sad part of it is that some members of the private sector always, those who do business with government and who rely on ANC largesse, they will also adhere to that list. People don't want to employ you, like, but why? What have I done wrong? We can't touch you. Yeah. I have been through that thing. That's why I had to leave South Africa, because suddenly people were not able to touch me because they were afraid to touch me. And there are many, many, many other people who are quiet. As I said, that's why it's important that we also talk about those people who are probably listening to this show, but they are afraid. People like Monobisi Kalawe, I'm mentioning his name. He was the CEO of SAA at the time. That guy never even went to the Zonal Commission. If he were to stand on a platform and tell us what happened there when Dutumieni was there, you'd want to cry.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Phumi, I like what you said there too, that there's an onus on the private sector too to take these people in and give them an opportunity, even if they are on some ANC list, as Solly puts it, because we want whistleblowers to come forward. We want them to show us who the bad people are, and then we want them to show us where the money is being stolen. But we then have a responsibility to give them the kind of security that makes it possible for other people to come forward without worrying about their bottom line. I mean, Lukhanyo was just saying, he couldn't pay the medical aid. We've heard about these people having their houses taken away. We've heard about threats to their lives, slashing of tires, all of that stuff. We're clearly not doing a very good job with whistleblowers.
Well, Gareth, if I can say, that the onus does lie on the kind of legislation that is put in place to protect whistleblowers in this country. And I think the reason why there's been such a delay in getting us to that point where we say there's actually a law that guarantees whistleblowers protection, and no one can ever be guaranteed of future employment, but at least protection from death threats, from violence, but also protection from someone losing their home. There has to be some kind of mechanism that's worked into that legislation that says, if you blow the whistle and you save the state R1 billion, for instance, someone like Cynthia Stimple, who had refused to sign certain contracts at SAA during Dudu Mieni's time, she saved this country billions of rands. So ideally, in the legislation that is passed, there should be some mechanism that says, maybe 1% of the money that you saved the country, you will receive that as some kind of a reward or some kind of a payment, just so that you are protected.
I don't imagine I don't think there are a lot of people who would have a problem in South Africa with giving a reward to the whistleblowers if we consider how much is being stolen left, right, and center.
The ANC does.
Well, obviously.
yeah, but that's the point. The thing is, if we were to pass any legislation of that nature, who would have to pass it? The ANC still dominates in parliament. Most of the people who are incriminated in a lot of stuff that's happened in South Africa are ANC people, or they're linked to the African National Congress. So how do you expect these people to suddenly turn around and reward people who speak out against them? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen while the ANC. Look at the Zondo Commission report. The president has just come out to tell us, of course, what we know, that its recommendations are not binding. But we expected something else from this. He's preparing us for something else. He's trying to be president of South Africa and president of the ANC at the same time. And the two no longer speak to each other.
Solly, have you ever seen this blacklist that that everybody who the ANC doesn't want everyone else to deal with is on? Have you seen it, or
Look,
is it just
no.
is it something that you heard about? Because
I've heard about it. I don't. I've written about it as well. I've never seen it. The thing about it is that you hear different people in different parts of the country telling you, yeah, but you are untouchable. We can't do it. I have friends who were told, if you do that, Solly is on the blacklist. You can't work with him. You need to remove him from your website, because we see he's one of us, your associates. I have friends who refuse to do that, but some of them were told, listen, if you don't refuse to remove Solly, then you're not going to succeed over there. But when you have 2 or 3 different organizations saying that to yourself, then there must be conversations that are happening behind the scenes that we are not aware of. I don't know if there's a physical list, but I know that there are names that get circulated. It's not new. I mean, people like former advocate Vusi Piccoli. Remember how he was chucked out of the business of that auditing firm following his removal from office. He had done nothing wrong. There are other people. Temba Maseko has written about it in his book. Many other people have been told suddenly you become untouchable. How does the word circulate that you can touch that one, you can't touch one? So the harm that gets down to people, it's not just physical violence. It's having all doors shut at you so that you can't survive. Your livelihood gets threatened. You can't take care of your children and your family. You lose your home, your cars, etc. And you realize that there's something going on in this country, and it is going on. One day, hopefully, one day somebody will stand up and say, okay, this is what has been going on.
If I may add something to that, Phumi. So at the SABC, we knew that there was censorship, but nowhere was it written down. There was never an email that said, you can't do this, you can't do this. It was always word of mouth. Always word of mouth. And then when you try to follow it back to say, but where does the instruction actually come from? Eventually someone will tell you, oh, well, it comes from the 27th floor or where where it comes from. So, and I think to this point that Solly is making is that there may not necessarily be a list that's written down, but there are individuals that, where in discussions where it's spoken about to say, oh, okay, so Lukhanyo, no, that one is a bad apple. You don't want him. Because also if you have Lukhanyo, the chances of receiving further patronage, that's
exactly.
Those are going to be limited.
Yeah, including the list of individuals, Lukhanyo, who could not be interviewed. There's no list, but people knew you can't invite so and so into the studio.
I was about to ask if there was speaking of lists, if there was a red list there at the SABC of analysts that you couldn't speak to. So there wasn't. Okay.
Well, I remember. I mean, part of the reason I had to leave and start Cliff Central was because I wanted to interview. It was an election year in 2014. And I was not allowed to interview Julius Malema. It was never written down. It was never sent to me in an email. But if I gave him any airtime, then I would have been in trouble. And I thought, this is not right. There's a new party. Remember, he just launched the EFF. Right. And all the attention and all the interest was on the EFF at that point. I was allowed to interview ANC people who ironically never came, because they didn't have to. They felt that they were too good to do interviews. DA people, fine, no problem. Any of the others are good, but EFF, not allowed. Persona non grata. So it is a thing. And you're right, Lukhanyo. You don't write these things down. Otherwise, you can be traced. They can figure out who sent the command. And we know that these commands come from up high, and those people don't want to be implicated.
So shortly after we were returned to work in 2016, in August, I had the opportunity to then, come up to Joburg and come up to Auckland Park. And it was my first time coming to Auckland Park. And I remember walking the floors and people were warm and were very, gracious towards me, and I appreciated that. And I remember walking down one of the floors, one of the aisles, and looking out and having this incredible view of the city of Johannesburg. And I remember thinking to myself, if you are not grounded as a person in yourself, if you are, not aware of who you are, in terms of what it is that you're capable of and what you're not, and all of those things, it's easy for you, if you're running the SABC, to believe that this is your space and that you can do whatever. And I remember looking out of the window and thinking, that is probably Cloudy's problem. He thinks that because he runs the SABC and he has this beautiful view of Johannesburg, that he thinks he's this person that can do whatever he wants to with other people's lives. And I remember feeling quite sorry for him, because I knew that ultimately there was going to come a time where the situation that we were in would correct itself, and that he would find himself outside of that office that he occupied at the time. And I wondered where he would end up when he no longer has the protection of the African National Congress. Out
of morbid curiosity, does anyone on the panel know where Hlaudi Motsoeneng is right now and what he's doing?
Well, he's
definitely
fighting.
not paying us back the money he's supposed
Correct.
to be paying back.
Yeah,
That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's trying to push back against the need, with the order to pay back the money. I think it was 11 million rands that he took, or some kind of commission of sorts.
No, it was a success fee.
It was a success fee.
Right.
Yeah, that he paid himself after he had illegally signed the agreement between the SABC and MultiChoice,
Yes.
Which obviously allowed MultiChoice the archives of the SABC.
Yeah, but I mean, just like the gentleman from ESCOM, it's not going to keep fighting this war forever. They've now added interest to the amount that he pays, that he owes. The longer he stays without paying it, the more he's going to end up having to pay back. They'll take his house. Who knows?
Wow.
People must go to jail. I've had this. I've said this on the show before, and this is my view. Right? Is that people must go to jail. People, of course. I want the money back. Of course, I want us to have our money back. That money can be spent on so many other things that are not skinny jeans. But also, people must go to jail.
Absolutely.
Right? So over and above, because it seems to be a trend. Like we see it 2 weeks ago. No, on Saturday. One of the judgments also came back of something like 134 years. One of the guys who had TERS, that UIF money that was supposed to have been spent on.
Right.
He must pay back the money, and then then a suspended jail term. I'm like, the jail term must not be suspended. People must be in orange overalls. That's what we want to see.
Absolutely. We live in a country of no consequences, and that's what I'm saying in this article, my article this week. We're saying people are getting away with so much. It's no longer just ANC politicians, but people on the ground. People just do stuff. People throw paper. They break stuff. They look at a piece of
The really scary thing about this is it seems that we live in a country where there are no consequences, but only if you do really bad things. Like if you steal billions, then nothing happens to you. But the ordinary person is arrested by, the police for, I don't know, selling drugs on the street corner or something. They go to jail and they sit in jail for a long, long time. And it seems that the smaller your crime, the more punished you will be. And the larger your crime and the more corruption and the more money you steal, the better off you'll be. Lukhanyo?
Gareth, just on that, I have this theory that is a legacy, unfortunately, that we got from the apartheid days. I think when we moved over into a democracy in 1994, the thing that the ANC failed to do at the time was to hold the people who had committed crimes against our humanity accountable for those crimes.
We gave an amnesty, right? I mean, we had that Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which did some things, but not enough. And I mean, in cases like your father's, no one ever paid a price for that.
Exactly, Gareth. Exactly. So now we live in a country where you can kill someone or people as brutally as what they killed my father and his comrades, and never be held accountable for having committed those crimes. Now, that has an impact because people see that and people act from that position to say, but hold on, if de Klerk was never held responsible for his role in the murders of the Cradock Four, why should I be held responsible for looting 2 billion rand from VBS? Because the VBS looting and some of, state capture, there is a direct link that you can draw between this impunity and the apartheid impunity. It's because we never created the kind of state that says, we don't care if you are former President F.W. de Klerk or if you are former President Jacob Zuma. If you commit a crime in our country, you will be held accountable for that.
Can I just respond to that?
Yes, of course. Go ahead, Solly, and then I do want to bring someone else on. Go ahead.
Okay, two short things. One, look, we have South Africa's democracy, post-apartheid democracy, is a negotiated settlement. The details of the settlement nobody won a war. Okay, we need to be realistic about this. Some people on both sides of the fight got away with a lot. Many people would have gone to jail for all sorts of stuff they've done. We need to make peace with that.
And politicians look after politicians. Unfortunately, ordinary people paid the price, but they never did.
Yeah, it's a negotiated lesson. We need to make peace with that. Two, I don't think that we're committing sins or crimes because we learn from apartheid. I don't think that people who are doing bad things now are saying, because they cleared it away. I'm sorry, I don't think so. Human beings, where you have human societies, irrespective of where you are in the world, you need regulations, you need laws, but you need also enforcement of those laws. It's not because someone did a crime that I'm going to do a crime today, because I can do it and I can get away with it. We need to have a system that says, you commit crime, you go to jail, there's a price to be paid. We don't have that system, and we can't blame apartheid for the crazy stuff that are happening in South Africa today. I'm sorry, we can't do that. It's because we are allowing those things to happen.
Sorry, I'm not blaming apartheid. What I am saying, and I think to some extent you agree with me, is the fact that we never created the society that implements those laws, that puts justice as one of the top tenets of our country, that says if you had committed crimes under apartheid, right, you will be held responsible for those crimes, so that we are able to see, so that everybody knows that if you commit a crime in this country, whether it was under apartheid or under a democracy, you will be held accountable. Period. There's no negotiation. There's no discussion around it. If you commit a crime, you're held accountable. That's it. I'm not saying that we're blaming apartheid. I'm just saying that.
So I was actually just looking. I was just looking up now because I couldn't remember the name. So Santiago Rivera's 98 years old. 98 years old in July 2022, sentenced to 19 years imprisonment because he was part of. Look, but at 98 years old, still put under trial in Argentina, and he's still going to prison because of a crime that was committed in 1976.
Yeah, but guys.
I want to park this for a minute, everybody. I just want to bring on Athol Williams. I mentioned earlier that he wasn't going to be able to join us. He has made a plan, and I'm very grateful. So, Athol, welcome. I'm so glad that you could be a part of this discussion this morning. We've got Lukhanyo, we've got Solly, we've got Phumi, and Athol Williams now. Athol, it's been a while. I haven't spoken to you since December last year when we talked about whistleblowing and we talked about the situation you were in. And obviously, you've become a bit of a national hero since then, but it's not as if your life has got better. In many ways, it's become much, much worse. Give us an update, first of all, on how you're doing, and tell us what's been happening, what vultures have been swirling around recently.
Hi, Gareth. Morning, everyone. The strange thing, this thing about national hero, I keep saying, don't call me a hero and then treat me like a leper. And I think we've got a bit of that going on because I still have got absolutely no support from any quarters, from anyone, from any business organization, any government department, any wealthy individual. No one. And so I continue to live in fear. I got another warning yesterday about my life being in danger. It's the third one I've now had. And so nothing's changed except that I keep campaigning. I've been working here, continue working with authorities in South Africa, collaborating, providing evidence. I'll be a witness when those cases go to prosecution. So that's the SIU and with the NPA. And I'm campaigning, speaking to the UK government, to the EU government, because I think that's what justice demands. It demands that some of us, when you can and are able to, should speak up. But I think it's heartbreaking for me, and I don't use that word lightly because I am heartbroken, is that our government, the presidency, the ambassador in the UK, none of these people have even reached out to me to see how I'm doing, to see how they could help.
Now, you obviously, and I think everybody on this panel is we understand that this must be a very, very difficult time for you. Lukhanyo understands this in a very real way because he went through it with the SABC 8 as well. But Athol, I'm not surprised that our government isn't helping you. You also took on the big fish of Bain and other big international corporations who have tremendous power and money and exert enormous influence on governments all over the world. Have you been victim to any particularly nefarious attempts on your life or on your livelihood or anything else from those companies? And do they do it in any direct way? I mean, taking on some of the biggest and most dangerous companies in the world. And these are the people who were the architects of state capture in this country. If we should be pointing the finger of blame at the ANC, we should equally be pointing it at them. Have they made your life any more miserable in any way that you can actually account for? Or are they very nefarious and indirect and insidious about it?
Yeah, it's definitely indirect, Gareth. I've been here for 9 months now. I've been out of South Africa for 9 months, so I've stopped looking for work in South Africa because that was going nowhere.
Sure.
So again, despite my CV that's got 25 years of business and 5 master's degrees from top universities, no company in South Africa seemed to have any vacancies or interest in someone with my background and experience. So right now it's more it's more discreet. But I'll tell you what Bain is doing, almost by definition, for it to justify its continued existence in South Africa and elsewhere, they've got to defame me. Because when people ask questions about Bain, they're saying, Athol Williams says. And so Bain never addresses, and you'll see that in their press releases, their advertorials, their media, they never address the allegations. All they do is say Athol's got conjecture or Athol's speculating. In their documents to the Zondo Commission, they say Athol's dishonest. They say I'm a liar. And so it's they're playing the man, not the ball. And so the damage to my reputation, I can't even tell, because you know what it's like when you ask someone now or approach someone, you don't know why they're saying no. It could just be because they don't like me or because something else is going on. And just one last point on that, Gareth, just to, this idea again of how we treat whistleblowers. We know we could, as we've done in our country, we would exert violence against them or we discredit them. And Lukhanyo will know about this discrediting that goes on. And so I was shocked to hear the acting DG of Treasury on the radio disparaging me. And I think this is this connectedness when we say, why is government not acting? Why is it that Bain has got a board member of the Reserve Bank on its payroll? Why is it that Sasol defends Bain tooth and nail and Business Leadership South Africa? This is not looting, right? The Bain story, as you said, this is not about looting. Bain never looted, but Bain were at the center of the planning of state capture. They were Zuma's consultants of choice. And so their tentacles have reached deep into our society and they've got heavy political cover. The reason Bain continues in South Africa with all that we know is because they got political cover. And so again, if I'm what's standing between Bain and prosperity, and I'm standing between keeping the lid on everything they're hiding, and they're coming out, then of course I'm a danger to many people.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Athol and Lukhanyo, for my question for you is, for any other person that is watching or listening to the show today, where did you find the courage, and how should they go about, even with all of these things, because there is no doubt that you have been patriotic? Where should they find the courage, and how do you go about exposing what is available, particularly what is happening? I mean, particularly when the tentacles run so wide and deep.
Phumi, thank you for that question. I think for me, I have, I think, a very personal connection with, I think, with South Africa and the freedoms and the democracy that we enjoy today. My father's blood was shed for this country and this freedom that we have today. So I feel that I need to do things in a manner that honors my father, but not just him, but also Matthew Goniwe, Sparo Mkhonto, Stella Mhlawuli, but also Victoria Mhlenge, Griffith Mhlenge, Nokuthula Simelane, Ahmed Timo, Steve Biko, Mapetla Mohapi, you know. So I can go on and on and on, because for me, I always take it back to say that there were people who sacrificed their lives for me to be here where I am today. They gave the best of themselves for me. So what I need to do every day is to give the best of myself for them. I now have a son, and I'm sure some of the panel members have got kids as well, and they've got, obviously, we've got a society with the next generation of South Africans coming through. And we need to build the kind of South Africa that will allow them to fulfill their potential. You see, I have this thing, Phumi, where everybody that succeeds, for instance, you and Gareth leaves the SABC, he sets up Cliff Central, all right? For me, that is like his success validates why I had to grow up without a father, because it means for me, my father died so that Gareth could live in a South Africa where he grows up to fulfill his potential. So whenever a black child or a white child, a colored child, a Chinese child, an Indian child, or anybody in South Africa achieves something, it gives value to me, because it says my father did not die in vain. So I take what I do from that perspective, and everything that I do is then informed by that. I know it's a little bit convoluted, but that's really like my ethos in life. And it's from that perspective where I then draw my strength and my courage to do the things that I need to do.
Athol, I mean, would you do it all again? Because I know how much suffering and deprivation this has brought for you and continues to. Would you do it all again? Or would you say to whistleblowers, guys, I got to be honest with you, in my lowest moments, it wasn't worth it. My life was better before I did this.
That's a difficult question to answer, Gareth, because it feels like the heroic thing to say is, oh no, I'll do it all again. I'll accept the wounds and the pain and the broken bones again. And it's horrible going through the pain and the darkness, and where I am now being removed from my family and my home and my community. So I wouldn't want to do it all again. I do think in South Africa, it's actually unethical to encourage someone to be a whistleblower, because they're walking into danger. And I don't think we should encourage anyone to self-harm. So I'm hoping that when I am called to do it again, I will do it again. But by then, we've got the right support around whistleblowers. Because right now, there's nothing. Right now, not only are you ostracized or treated with hostility, but there's actually no one backing you up. And those resources are beginning to be developed in South Africa, which is encouraging. But generally, you are left on your own. And that's a perversity to me. It's a bit what Lukhanyo is saying. For me, I take this idea of being a citizen very seriously. I say I enjoy great benefits of being a citizen, but there are also responsibilities of being a citizen. And part of that is for me to do what I can do to fulfill the promise of what our democracy is. And so that's what drives me. What astounds me, absolutely astounds me, is that not many others share that view. And so, I thought I was walking into battle, and to my left and to my right and behind me would be, brothers and sisters saying, "We're with you, Athol." And still today, very few are willing to do that.
Have we, you, all three of you, Lukhanyo, Solly, and Athol, you've all three paid a private and a personal price. Two of you are currently overseas as a result of the fact that you have pissed off the ANC. The ANC is weakening. We talk about this every week here on the Burning Platform. Do you think that they are sufficiently weakened at this point to be at an inflection point, to be able to be brought down with all of their networks of patronage, and notwithstanding the good things that the ANC has done, and they are there for us to see, and we know what the ANC used to be and what a standard it used to hold itself to. But this organization is now riddled with holes like a Swiss cheese, and it's unlikely that it can repair itself. Are there any people in there that you still regard as being the torchbearers of the ANC that you might have looked up to at a time, and can do whatever they can in the organization to resuscitate it? Or is it so far gone that it must now be put in the grave? That's a tough question.
For me, it's so far gone. It's ethically lost the battle. I don't see any individual in the ANC who can bring to South Africa the responses that it needs in order to stand up again. I think the ANC needs to go. It's like an old energy system that needs to be decommissioned. I don't know what's going to happen in December, who's going to emerge as leader. Ramaphosa might, somebody else might. If somebody from the RET group becomes a leader, it's going to precipitate the speed towards the fall of the ANC. But we can't just rely on the ANC to fall. We South Africans need to organize, to unite again to save South Africa from the ANC. South Africa, there was post-colonial South Africa, post-apartheid South Africa. South Africa is desperately in need of post-ANC South Africa. We can't rely on the ANC to save South Africa. We have to unite before the elections to remove it.
Gareth, I agree with Solly in that I think what needs to happen is that the ANC is busy dying in front of our eyes. We can all see it. What we need to do is that we need to relieve the ANC of that power, and then we need to allow it to go into a corner and go and die. Because if the ANC dies while it is in power, it's going to drag us as a country along with it.
Yeah.
Right? So what we as South Africans need to do is that we need to relieve it, to say, okay, we will now relieve you of power, but we are going to allow the natural process of your death to continue. That's what we need to do.
I agree.
I just a slightly different view. I don't disagree with anything anyone said. It's, my sense is the ANC is a problem, not the problem. And I've said the same of Bain and all the other companies involved. They are a problem, not the problem. Because I've been wondering about what's happening in our country, and the best I can understand it or describe it is an erosion of our moral fabric. There's something that's been breaking and eroding over time to the point where now it's okay to just go and beat up a gogo and take her pension money. It's okay to just go and sexually abuse a 5-year-old. It's okay, and then et cetera, all the way up to state capture and massive corruption. So I worry that, either we're going to have this bloody revolution, and the only way to stem it is not get rid of the ANC or get rid of Bain. It's to have this moral revolution that I think we need. And yes, that stems partly from leadership of our country. But I think we as South Africans, I'm willing to go as far as saying any of us would have done what Bain did. Any of us would have done what some of these people involved in corruption would have done. Because at heart, there's a sense of greed, but also a sense of we don't care about the other. When I jump a red light in the traffic, early morning traffic, it's because I think my time's more valuable than yours. Phumi, I saw you wanted to come in there.
No, it's the thing I say on the show all the time is that South Africans at our core, we are rule breakers. We don't like following the rules. We don't follow the law. So jumping the traffic lights is one of the things that we do. The relationship between a bribed policeman and the bribing driver it's South Africans, so we do have to rebuild our country one person at a time.
I think that all fish rot from the head. There's got to be leadership. There's got to be a leader in South Africa who is able, and Nelson Mandela was able to do that to a large extent. Who's able to speak at all of us from a moral high ground. Right now, and for too many years, we haven't had a leader who was able to speak and everybody would shut up and listen.
Yeah, we're not fish, we are society.
No. But the thing is, there's got to be.
Us.
I'm a brand
from a brand perspective.
From a brand perspective, when the CEO misbehaves, when we say these are the brand values, and the CEO does other things, everybody will do their own thing. I'm not saying that the rest of us don't have a responsibility to take. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there's got to be. In South Africa, people follow the leaders, whether you like it or not. People just follow the leader. When you sing guys, you sing well, they follow you.
So speaking of following the leader, Lukhanyo, you're the head of an impressive newsroom. Athol, you're always paying attention to things. Solly, I know you watch every political development here with keen interest, and so does Phumi. There was a tweet from Julius Malema. Now, you could say what you like about Julius Malema, but he very seldom actually puts out false information, misinformation, disinformation. Right? And he would put out this tweet the other day about this possible faction that's brewing in the background of the ANC, and I can see you already smiling, Solly, because interesting, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka suddenly ignited her Twitter feed this week. We're hearing all kinds of stories about Thabo Mbeki in the background. Trying to cobble something together. Mcebisi Jonas. We hear about Tito and Trevor. We hear about lots of things going on here. We know that the most important thing in politics is who pays the piper, right? Now, the ANC are going into this conference this year. They are still an important, probably the most important political faction in the country as a party. What if there are new elements starting to coalesce in the ANC, and those elements might have access to funding? I know Athol has puts a chill up your spine because some of that funding might be from the very people who you've fingered in the State Capture Commission. But what do you guys think of the potential of that happening?
Well, I'll say something. I'll keep quiet. Look, patronage is big in South African politics. If you don't have the money, you are unlikely going to make it. That's the truth. But it's not. I'm not surprised. There would be people in the ANC trying to create something. Look at the Defend Democracy campaigners. A lot of them are ANC stalwarts. But I have tried to work with a lot of these ANC stalwarts, and all they want to do is to save the ANC. So that they have difficulties imagining South Africa without the ANC. So of course we'll have people saying we need to save our ANC. I'm tired of saving the ANC. South Africans need to save South Africa. As Calata said earlier, we need to get to a point where we relieve the ANC of the power so that we can breathe again. The ANC is like putting its knee on South Africa's neck. We need to remove that knee so that South Africa can breathe again, irrespective of who comes from the ANC.
Okay.
Gareth, the ANC is what, 110 years old. You don't live to be 110 years old without having set patterns. You know what I mean? There's things that you do that are completely difficult for you to turn around because those things are entrenched, those things are embedded. Yeah. It doesn't matter who sits at the top of the African National Congress, because the structures continue to work exactly the same way that they've worked for the last 100 and so years. And it's difficult to turn that thing around. So, one of the questions that I've been asking, Cyril Ramaphosa has been throwing around this buzzword, renewal. And what I've been saying is, what does the plan for renewal entail? So other than telling me that we on renewal, what are you going to practically put in place to renew the African National Congress? And I can tell you, I was at the policy conference. I asked that question every day. I never got a single answer other than the buzzword that is renewal. But how do you renew something that is, how do you renew? There's no ideological discussions within the branches.
You can't make sour milk good again. You know, once it's soured, it's done, I suppose. Maybe that's what we're saying. Athol, you get the last word. And again, thank you for making time for us. I know that we were talking to you at 1 a.m. To arrange this. So thank you. I really, you know, despite all your trials and tribulations, which we are more than sympathetic to, and you always will have a voice here on this platform, you get the last word for this morning.
You know, what Solly and Lukhanyo describe is an old organization that needs restructuring. So maybe the ANC should get Bain in. Let me close on a less cynical comment, perhaps. I think it is important. You know, I'm a philosopher, and so I'm not a public policy person, and so I'm allowed to be slightly, you know, in the air. But I do think at root, we as individuals, and I think whistleblowers are the example of this, and investigative journalists are examples of this. We as each individual must say, what am I going to do, right? And I think we've got, social media makes it so easy for us to say what they must do. Look what they must do, and we're experts at that, right? But very few of us say, this is what I'm willing to do. And, you know, and I think powerful things happen when we say, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. Because I think that's how we overturned apartheid, which was impossible to overturn, right? It's people, you know, 20,000 women marched on the union buildings. That's profound. Today, we can't get even, you know, 2,000 together to take any such visionary action. And so, you know, for me, I think things need to happen when we start saying, I must do something, as opposed to how can I jump on this bandwagon to enjoy what the others are enjoying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phumi loves this because that's exactly what she says every week on the Burning Platform, that it is up to you and me. So, gentlemen and Phumi, thank you so much. Lukhanyo, it's great to have you on the show this morning, and best of luck with Newsroom. I think you guys are doing a terrific job to also forward great journalism. And we hope to have you again soon. Solly, as always, you and Athol, you know, you always have a place here for whatever you want to vent about, whatever issues you think you need to bring to the fore. And we'll take whatever punishment comes as a result of that, right? This is one of the places.
Comes with the territory. Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.